All right, so we waited our few extra minutes to see if anybody else would come in. Looks like we got a few more folks, which I'm excited about. Welcome everyone. My name is Scott. I work for the Associated Students. And today is our very first Adulting 101 session of the semester. So thank you all for being here again. Today we have an individual, she's right here with us, Brooke McCall, who will be sharing a lot of her great information. The topic today is healthy habits. One thing that I can say about Brooke, and then I'm going to let her do the rest of the talking, no more jokes or anything like that from me. But one thing I can say about Brooke is that this is an individual who lives and breathes to understand and practice healthy habits in her everyday life. It's something that she does from her exercise routines to her mindset and her thought process throughout the day to what she eats and everything else in between. So we're really, really fortunate to have her sharing her knowledge with us today. So from here on out, we're going to let Brooke have the floor.
Wow, Scott, thank you. That was a very nice introduction, and I'm super excited to see all of you today. And I'm very excited to talk about this topic. I really delved into this presentation, and I'm really excited to talk to you all about it, especially at the beginning of the semester and heading into what is no doubt just a different semester. I mean, we can keep saying that all we want, but I think that the best way we can survive these times and come out on top is to set ourselves up for success. And in doing so, there is nothing stronger, nothing is a driving factor behind success more than our habits. So I'm going to share my screen. The host is disabled screen sharing. Can I get in on that, please? Is anybody else thinking about what they're going to have for lunch? I'm really hungry. I'm thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch. I think it's going to be multiple things. I'm that hungry. I thought if I was hungry, it'd keep me focused. Let me try. We ready? All right. So we're going to PowerPoint. Nope, this one. Okay, and we'll go to slideshow, play from current slide. Okay, everybody see okay? Wonderful. All right, so welcome to Adulting 101, Healthy Habits. My name is Brooke, as Scott so graciously introduced me. I oversee programs for the Associated Students Rec, which means I oversee group exercise, personal training, special events, and the umbrella of wellness for basically campus. And it is definitely something I am super passionate about, love to talk about it. So thank you for sharing your time with me today. It is one of the greatest gifts you can give someone, and I super appreciate it. So all our life so far, as it has definite form, is but a mass of habits. And so when we talk about setting ourselves up for success and working in the smartest and not hardest way, creating healthy habits and lifestyle changes is the best way to go about that. So good habits are worth being fanatical about. A habit is a settled or regular tendency or practice. They are actually encoded structures. They're actually grooves in our brain. So when your brain creates a habit, it actually creates a groove. And so when you settle on that habit, it literally leaves a physical imprint in your space, which I think is super cool. They're very strong. Our brains cling to them above all else, including common sense, and we will talk about that a little bit in the next slide. More than 40% of the actions you perform each day aren't actually decisions, but habits. So when we talk about the importance of living in the moment, the easiest way to do that is to create lifestyle change through habits. They are never extinguished, only replaced or changed. So if you're looking at bad habits and replacing them with good habits, those bad habits, they never really die. And so it's always something that's kind of there on the back burner, but you can overwhelm them or overcome them with good habits. And the brain does not distinguish between good and bad habits, so that's where you come along. I have a lot of quotes in here. That's kind of how I based the presentation, so I apologize for the clichéness of it all. Hope is not a strategy. So the goal is to turn I wish into I will. This is by Jim Quick. He is one of my favorite motivational folks. So why should we build habits? As we talked about earlier, they actually, they create grooves in our brain. And so when our brain follows them without paying attention to other things, it actually saves us effort so that we don't have to constantly relearn everything we do. They free up energy that can be used for other tasks. So it all goes back to, again, setting yourself up for success and working smarter, not harder. And they potentially allow us to consistently engage in healthy behavior. And I underline potentially here because since our habits form so much of what we do throughout the day, whether they're good or bad is, again, up to us. Our brain doesn't distinguish. And so when we use potentially, they have the ability to allow us to consistently engage in healthy behavior. And so that comes down to how we decide to use that power. So as we talk about the habit loop, I have two examples here on the screen, and they're essentially the same thing. The habit loop can be a positive or a negative for you. And I will move this, I think, so that it's not in the way. Is that better? Should I just, there we go. So the habit loop involves a cue, a trigger, a routine, and a reward. So the cue or trigger is a location, a time of day, certain people, an emotional state. The routine is watching TV, eating chocolate, biting your nails. It could be a bad habit like smoking a cigarette. The reward is the pleasure chemicals released in the brain based on the routine. So a cue or trigger in the negative sense could be a location, a place that something is somewhere stressful to you, or something bad happened, a time of day, you're just not a morning person. Certain people can be massive triggers in our lives and actually instigate emotional states. So the routine would be your escape from that. Could be having a drink, could be smoking a cigarette, biting your nails, something that your brain goes to escape. And then the reward, whether the habit is negative or positive, the pleasure chemicals released in the brain, they're released because of the routine. And so if we turn that and we put a positive spin on it, let's say the cue or trigger is my alarm goes off and I get up. My routine is I drink water and I work out. My reward is the pleasure chemicals released in the brain because of the routine. So the because of the routine is still the same piece of it, but the routine and the cue can be made positive. And so I really resonate with this loop. I think it's really fun to put them side by side. So what I would love to do, what I would love for you to think about for a moment is just a habit that you have. It could be positive, it could be negative. And then what that cue or trigger is for that habit, what the routine is. So the routine is the habit. And then how you feel once you complete that habit. All right, so moving forward, hope is not a strategy. We turn I wish to I will. So how do we start to change our habits? How do we start to create habits? We want to start simple, so creating small changes that lead to eventually big rewards. And also, even if you're starting simple, you don't want to think of too many habits, right? Starting simple in terms of amount, but also habit itself. So my alarm goes off, I drink water. Maybe that's a habit we focus on and moving forward, and then we start to elaborate. So with each habit, as it turns into a lifestyle change, we can go back and revisit and eventually just start to create more and more and more that lead to more positive changes. It's really important in the formative stages of your habit, and there is no time frame for folks for this. Some people say 30 days, some people say 14. It could be longer than that. So it's really important that you investigate this in terms of your success, but you don't make any exceptions in the formative stages. So for example, if your habit is to stop drinking or drink less, you may find other folks to hang out with. If you hang out with a group of folks that drinks a lot, you may, in the formative stages of your new habit of trying to drink less or trying to drink not at all, find people with similar goals, or find people that don't depend on that quite as much, so that in the formative stages of your habit, you are not surrounded by those folks that influence your behavior, because people influence our behavior a lot. And then once your habit is established, you can still invite those experiences back into your life. Telling and inviting others to join you, accountability matters so much. So one of the things that we oversee the personal training program at the Rec, and one thing that folks always say when we say, okay, why are you interested in getting a personal trainer? Oftentimes the answer is, I need somebody to hold me accountable. I need to know that somebody is going to be here waiting for me. Somebody knows that I'm supposed to be here. So it's another reason people like group exercise, right? They know that they have to show up at a specific time and the instructor is waiting for them. Telling a friend, so I am going to start drinking water when I wake up. So I call Scott and I'm like, Scott, I'm going to start drinking more water. I need to drink water. So the second my alarm goes off, I'm going to drink water. And so when Scott and I are talking, if we talk on a daily basis, you're going to involve obviously folks that you're closer to. He's going to check in with me if he's my friend, if he's my, my ally in this. And he is my accountability buddy. Visualize yourself performing the habit. Visualization is extremely strong. It's very powerful, and it enables us to really establish, we see ourselves getting up right when our alarm goes off and not hitting snooze. And then you visualize it before you go to bed. And then your cue is when that alarm goes off, you just get up instead of hitting snooze. So I'm using a lot of examples. I hope they're helpful. Creating an affirmation to repeat at the beginning and end of each day. Affirmations and intention setting can be really powerful for some folks. So it just reminds you to set that pattern. Identify and temporarily remove barriers to success. So we talked about this a little bit in up above when we talked about not making any exceptions in the formative stages. Identifying and temporarily possibly removing barriers to success, or removing completely, depending on what your goal is. So as we go over these factors, I want you to kind of think about that habit that you identified earlier. If it was a negative one or bad, we use the term bad, but I also see them as just opportunities for growth. So we don't always want to label all habits as bad. So removing barriers to success. So if your goal is to try to watch less TV or watch Netflix less or stay off social media, let's go with social media because that's an easy one. If your goal is to stay off social media before bed so that you can get to sleep earlier and stop, spending that 20 or 30 minutes on social media before you go to bed, removing the app from your phone would be a barrier. Right? Because you're taking your phone with you to bed because that's where your alarm is, but you're not tempted to stay on social media because the app isn't on your phone anymore. And then recognizing the reward. How do you feel when you've completed the task or habit? This is a really big deal, especially in the early stages of your habit, because you completing that task or reward releases the pleasure center chemicals in the brain. And so you want to always go back to that. Like, I feel really good today. I went to bed last night on time. I woke up and I got my workout in. I feel great. And so rewarding yourself for those small wins is super beneficial. And then being imperfect is, I can't say this enough. No one ends every single day having achieved all of their goals. I would hope that everyone is always striving to find areas for growth. It is one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit later in our presentation. One of the things that allows us to continue to grow as human beings and to continue to become better. So being imperfect and failing is all a part of that. So expect to fail, expect to be imperfect. And what do you do if you didn't complete your habit or you slip back into a bad habit? You just try again. And you keep trying and you keep trying. And sometimes it can take a year. Depending on the size of the habit that you're trying to change. So from here, one of the most important things we think about is when you think about a habit, so before we go into our next portion, this is just our habits portion, and then we're going to relate it to wellness in our next section of the presentation. But it's important to identify why you want the change. If you want it because of some kind of extrinsic factor, like I want to dress better because I feel like I should look better. Well, why do you feel like you should look better? Well, it's kind of an expectation of society that I dress better. That's not an intrinsic factor. That's an external source coming in. You feel like you should complete this because someone else thinks this, right? Your why is super important in the success of your habits. So if you want to, I feel like I want to work out more. Why do you feel like you want to work out more? I feel like it gives me energy. It makes me happy. It drives me to want to be better. That is an intrinsic factor. That is something that relates all the way back to you. It does not involve anyone else. The success of your habits and creating good ones and proper lifestyle changes have to depend on your ability to feel good about them for you. And then once we determined our why, we identify our desired change. And then we start relating it to wellness. So does anybody have any questions so far? Anything that they want to go touch back on before we head into the next segment? We doing good? Okay. Anything in the chat? All right. Are they awake? We don't know. Okay. Are you all awake? So wellness encompasses a healthy body, a sound mind, and a tranquil spirit. So going into wellness, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, because when we think wellness, and I'm going to see if you're awake, I want you all, when I say wellness, I want you to start throwing in the first thing that comes to your head when you think of wellness, and just throw it in the chat. Are they throwing things in the chat? Okay, so Scott, can you start throwing out some of the words that come up?
Certainly. Sleep, we've got health, physical and mental health. So far, we got those three. Exercise, nice.
Perfect. They were awake, yay.
We got some engagement.
We got engagement. Okay, thank you, Scott.
I'll chime in if some more come up.
Perfect, thanks y'all. I super appreciate that. And you know, the reason I want you to throw off those things at the top of your head is because so often when we talk about wellness, we think of it as physical. And there are many, many areas of wellness. We're going to, I'm gonna go back. What we focus on coming out of the Associated Students Rec is the wellness wheel of 8 components. And as we talk about this, and I want you to look at this image on the screen, it encompasses a wheel. And so I want you to kind of visualize like spokes on a wheel as we go through. I promise I'll wrap it up, it'll make sense. So there are 8 dimensions of wellness according to the National Intramural and Recreational Sports Association. And so that is what we go off of. Some organizations have 5, some have 7. We went with the 8, there are 9. So it just depends on how you break and segment them up. So what we are going off of today is intellectual, physical, social, spiritual, environmental, financial, occupational, psychological, did I already say, and intellectual wellness. Okay. So going from there, we'll start with intellectual wellness. We're going to go through each of these aspects of wellness. And as we do, I want you to relate it to your life, to how you feel about that area of wellness in your life. And then we'll revisit that a little bit later on in the slideshow. Oh, okay. So intellectual wellness is actively participating in scholastic, cultural, and community activities. We are super fortunate to be a part of a college campus in which, in a lot of ways, we are constantly surrounded by, we have the privilege to be surrounded by these activities. And so that's always one of the things that comes to mind when talking about intellectual wellness. We are surrounded by a culture of knowledge, but whether or not we choose to participate in the rest of it outside of our book learning is kind of up to us. It's funny, before today, I never knew how to go back in a slideshow. Now I do. All right, physical wellness, which is probably the most popular and widely known form of wellness, encompasses proper care of our bodies for optimal health and functioning. This can include physical activity, rest, sleep, it's a big one, y'all, and nutrition. I could come back and give a full other presentation on sleep. Love it. All right, and then spiritual wellness is defined through various factors, including religious, faith, values, ethics, and morals. It recognizes something greater than ourselves and encompasses kindness towards others, daily gratitude, and appreciation. And again, we're kind of, as we go through these, we're kind of checking them off in our brain as, is this an area of wellness that I recognize on a daily basis? Financial wellness is developing the skills you need to manage your finances responsibly. Financial wellness can be a lifelong opportunity for growth for most folks. So stuff I want, stuff I need, and stuff I have money for. Social wellness is the relationships we have and how we interact with others. Occupational wellness is the ability to achieve a balance between work and leisure time, addressing workplace stress, and building relationships with coworkers. Occupational wellness and social wellness, and you'll notice that a lot of these kind of intertwine and go together. Occupational and social wellness, as you get older and spend more time at your job, can really stand out. And so while you are in school, you have the ability to kind of think ahead and start to realize how much occupational wellness, when you look at the amount of time you'll spend at work, could affect your overall well-being. Psychological wellness is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So this involves self-acceptance, adaptability, capacity for empathy, and autonomy. Psychological wellness is a big one, and also another one of those opportunity areas for growth. You know, it goes back to, I think this one relates back a lot to the healthy habits and creating and revisiting those as we move forward. Environmental wellness inspires us to live a lifestyle that is respectful of our surroundings. Cows, I love the cows. So those are the 8 dimensions of wellness. And so moving through here, now that we have those little notes in our head, we have this knowledge of habits, and we have this knowledge of wellness and well-being in the areas of wellness. And so knowledge becomes power only when and if it is organized into definite plans of action. So what I would love for us to do with the next few slides and kind of moving towards the end of our presentation today and opening it up for a little bit of discussion and comments is create a plan, a definite plan of action. So going back to let's see, I'm going to escape. I got this. Hang on, y'all. Okay, I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to go back to our slide that talked about so as we look at the 8 areas of wellness and as they apply to healthy habit change, going back through our quick little checklist, I want you to start thinking about the different areas of wellness and revisit positive steps to creating healthy habits. So starting simply, not making any exceptions in formative stages, inviting or telling others to join you. We don't tell other people to join you, that doesn't work. But tell them about your excitement of your behavior change. Visualize yourself creating this habit, create an affirmation, identify and remove barriers to success, recognize the reward, embrace imperfection, and identify the why. And then going forward, skipping through. Now we come back. Knowledge is power when we have a plan of action. So we talked about, when we started talking about the wellness wheel, talked about the spokes. So here we have a wheel and it has some broken spokes. And my hope is that as you went through, you recognized a couple of those areas of wellness in which you could improve. Those are your broken spokes. Well, we all know that when there is a broken spoke on a wheel, it can't function properly. So our goal, our end result is always to strive for a wheel that has non-broken spokes. Now, in our quest to embrace perfection and understanding that we're never really fully going to have the perfect wheel, however, we're going to start rating our areas of wellness. And so if you can start at the left, oh, I forgot in my introduction, I was supposed to have you grab a pencil and paper or a pen or open up the note section in your phone or open up a Word document where you can type. So I'm going to give everybody a minute because we're going to make a couple of lists. And you can just pretend to go get a piece of paper. But if you wanted to be successful, grab a piece of paper so that we can start to work through our definite plan of action. So when we talk about our areas of wellness, I want you to, looking at this slide on the left here, I want you to list them in order of importance to you specifically. So you're going to take this general list on the left that starts in the order that we presented, and you're going to write them down yourself in which is most important to you, which has the highest value. And everybody can have different reasons for this. And it takes a minute. I had a lot of arrows when I was drawing mine. What I found were the first like 3 were super easy. And then the rest started, I'm like, I don't know. So once you have your list, have I given everybody enough time? Kelsey, do you need more time? You're the one I can see. Okay, I'll give you all 1 more minute. And hopefully when you're done, you will have circles and arrows and crossouts. This is a thought process of where your priorities truly are. And there's zero judgment here. All right. So from here, you have your list in terms of what you feel like are most important in your life. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing? There are going to be some areas where you're like, wow, I am crushing that one. And crushing can be anywhere from a 6 to a 10. It's all based on your rating scale. And again, we are imperfect beings. So while our wheel spokes might not all reach the rim, there's obviously going to be areas where we're thriving and areas where we are lacking a little bit. So on a scale of 1 to 10, in those areas of importance, where are you at? So I'm going to give you all 1 more minute just to think about it. And then I'm going to start kind of incorporating a little bit of my process in so you have a little bit of relatability. All right. And then this is also where we start to realize in this process, we'll start to realize how much of our areas start to blend into one another. So on my list, when I talk about my physical, when I think about my physical wellness, it's what I do, right? So it is my job to be aware and on top of my physical well-being. And so I'm pretty good at that. But I also always believe that there is room for growth. And so gave myself an 8 there. I feel like I practice a lot of gratitude and respect for just the universe and a higher power. And so on a spiritual level, give myself a 9 there. I am one of the most social people I know. Probably could go 10 there, but you know, we're in the great pause, as I like to call it. So my social life's a little lacking. Psychological wellness, when we talked about it, I always feel like I can do better in the moment, and always feel like I could be improving habits that allow me to react better to certain situations. So gave myself a little bit of 6 there. Occupational wellness, I have phenomenal coworkers, a job that I just absolutely love, so right up there. And kind of moving on down the line. Intellectual wellness, sometimes I don't have the amount of time that I would like to spend on reading outside things that don't apply to my job. Financial wellness, there's always opportunity for growth there. And environmental wellness, when I really step back and look at it, that is an area that I would like to be more impactful in. So once we've identified those, going to the bottom of my, rating system, and I'm using myself specifically to give you all an example, taking financial and environmental growth here, we're going to move on. So now you're going to pick your final, your bottom 2 or 3, and we're going to go to our next area, and that is cueing your new habits. And so if we look at our cue, our routine, and our reward, on your next piece of paper, you're going to flop it over, you're going to draw an arrow, and you're going to write your cue for a habit that you think could benefit you from, that is an easy place to start small, and you think you could create a small habit that would improve one or both of those areas. So mine happen to blend together at the end. So oftentimes I'll have a cart open, and especially right now because we're not leaving the house as much, so I'll have a cart open, and the easy thing for me to do is just add something to my cart and throw it in there. So shopping thinking I need stuff, that is my cue. The routine, right, the new habit would be before I press the button on the confirmation of that order, maybe I go organize a drawer or a closet, right? So my reward is I have a more organized space. I've had some time to think about that thing, and do I really need it? And probably realize that I don't need more stuff. The positive impact of that is that I increase my financial and environmental wellness. So it's just a deeper thought process into your actions. My second cue would be grabbing items when I am at the store that contain plastic packaging because it's easier. It's easier when I'm at Trader Joe's to throw some soaps into my cart that have plastic packaging and pumps. The routine would be to prepare containers for bulk buying, right? Research products that don't need the amount of plastic packaging, i.e. bar soap or, versus soap and pump. My reward would be to use less single-use plastic, and it's possibly less expensive. So again, my positive impact increases environmental and possibly financial wellness. And so giving you that example, I'm going to give you some time, probably a little bit more time than the last little bout. And I want you to think about your cue, the routine, and the reward. And it is really important here when we start talking about our definite plan of action that you are writing this down, that you are making a connection with your thoughts to paper or a screen, somewhere where it is visible to you. And then in a second, if we were in person, I would give somebody the opportunity to share, because as we all know, one of the ways of solidifying a new habit is to speak it out loud, to commit to it out loud to another person. So I would love to give you all the opportunity as you start to kind of create your habit loop to share. And I know that's terrifying. You don't have to turn your screen on. But it, not only does sharing help you solidify that habit and allow you to speak it out loud, but it also allows other folks some insight and may give other folks opportunities to kind of delve deeper into what they are committing to and maybe give them ideas. So you could be not only helping yourself, but other folks as well. So if you are one of those folks that would like to share your habit and take that first step to committing, feel free to unmute yourself at any time. I feel like I'm pushing something, like take that first step to committing. I swear, there aren't any further links. I'm not selling anything. We have at least 20 minutes and I can be very patient when I'm not standing in front of a room. So I do understand it's kind of terrifying admitting your faults. I will say that.
I mean, I guess I can go.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. So, honestly, like, I actually have a habit too of, whenever I go to the store, I see something I like, I buy it. I just don't really think about it. If I like it, I buy it. And like a routine I could probably do is, I'm not really too organized, but I feel like if I organize a lot more, like maybe my closet, my drawers, like anything like that, I would probably the reward would be like I would be able to realize a lot more of like what I have and focus more on my needs rather than my wants. And yeah.
Is it Eladio?
Yeah.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And that is great. I feel that way too. And another thing that helps me is doing laundry. Then I have to do it and put it all away. And I realize I don't want any more. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
Does anybody else want to go? Get a little commitment train going here?
Can I say something on that too? Because I think you brought up a really good point there. I think that there's a whole practice around identifying what your needs and wants are. And that's a whole nother session that we could absolutely do, because there's a whole thought process around that. And I think that you bring up an absolutely great point. And that's an art form to be able to identify what your needs and wants are in a healthy way, because we can easily convince ourselves to shift some things over out of the want category and into the need category. And so that's another just lifelong practice and a habit in and of itself.
Definitely. Thank you, Scott. Anybody else? Kelsey, you were deep in thought over there.
I think I related just so much to your shopping piece. And I think what I was also thinking, I think, especially at the beginning of being quarantined and everything, I think for me, it was just that sense of having something to look forward to. I think I was struggling so much with so many things getting canceled and things I wasn't going to be able to attend. I was like, well, at least I know something's coming by Friday. That helps a lot. And so I've been really thinking about what are my cues and what can I change and add to be a little bit different.
That's phenomenal. Thank you. I think that, yeah, that having something to look forward to is really true. Well, thank you. And thank you all. Does anybody else want to throw it out there?
Mine would be sleeping.
Sleeping.
Like your favorite topic. So
Tell me more.
I think in our generation, we're on our social media so much that we kind of lose track of time. And at nighttime, I'm on I'm on the TikTok, you know, the TikTok thing.
Yes.
It's addicting. The algorithms are pretty scary to know what you are, but like just like having your brain to tell you to go to sleep, but you still want more feed into your mind. So it's like kind of have to like tell your mind to like shut up and just like put your phone down and go to sleep, because sleep is a huge factor, right? It's a huge factor in this.
It is probably one of the biggest.
And I think our generation doesn't know about it that much. I don't think it's not as like as a big huge point, you know, in educational health.
Definitely.
It's more of like weed and alcohol, but like sleep is a huge thing. And from what I was hearing from a lot of my friends, they all sleep at like 12 or 1, which is not good.
Right. No, it is. Sleep is so important. And, you know, for college students, I mean, for everybody, but for you all especially, I mean, it affects your cognitive learning. And so to be in a time where so much of your success is dependent on learning, lack of sleep impairs that. And so it's such a huge realization for you. That's awesome. So in terms of your goal, what would be a specific thing instead of, or taking, you know, tell your brain to shut up and put down the phone, what would be a tangible action that you could utilize that would allow you to be successful with that and create a habit of not looking at your phone before bed?
Well, in the future like, I don't know anyone who has iPhones right now, but in the future update, they will have a sleep tracking app, which I have now. And you can set the time goal of how much sleep. So the average person needs 8 hours of sleep, which is sufficient enough, but majority of people are having less than that. So the specific goal here is 8 hours of sleep.
Definitely. And so you think seeing your numbers, if you were able to enter that into your phone, seeing the numbers and striving for that would help you?
Yes.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to talk about their cue routine habit? All right. So I will leave you with one of my most cliche but favorite. Oh goodness, how do I go back? Oh no, I did it. All right, hang on. I ruined it. I just wanted you to remember all of the slides. It was a tactic. So I'm leaving you with one of my most cliche but favorite quotes from Gandhi. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. And so when we talk about, well, they're just habits, they're just little minor changes. They can actually impact the rest of your life, especially at any point, honestly. They can impact the rest of your life in a lot of really positive ways if we allow ourselves to use that power for good. And so I hope that you found a lot of value in our presentation today. I hope that I was able to give you some tangible things that you can take away and use to help you create some positive change and some great lifestyle changes. And I want to thank you again for your time today. I will stop sharing my screen now if I can. And just open up the floor if anybody has any questions or anybody would like to weigh in. I'm going to put my email in the chat. So if there is anything that I can help you with personally, if you didn't feel like speaking up in front of the group, completely understandable. But y'all, I live and breathe this stuff on a daily basis. I love talking about it. I love helping folks kind of uncover areas of growth in their lives. And so if I can be helpful to you in that sense, please reach out to me at any time. Make sure I type it right. There it is. So my email is in the chat. Does anybody have any questions about anything we covered?
I've got one, Brooke.
Sure.
So I really like the idea of the wheel and the 8 different domains that are within the wheel. What would you say to someone who takes a look at one of those components and just says, like my spiritual well-being isn't something that I will need in my life and don't want to focus on, or the social aspect, like I'm an introvert, I find my energy elsewhere, and they maybe don't have like a motivation to inspect or take a look at one of the domains on the wheel. What would you say to them?
Well, we talked about, that's a really great question, Scott. We talked about in the beginning when I was presenting the 8-spoke wheel, if you will, that there are a lot of them can potentially flow into one another and cross lines. And so, everybody's spokes might look a little different, and the number of spokes on a wheel might look a little different. But when we start to question relevancy in those areas, in terms of, you might be an introvert, but your social well-being is so important. We are by nature social animals. And so our connection to others, whether it be large groups of people or just smaller intimate groups of people, are still very important to our success. And so the first step would be to see if possibly that area kind of can blend into another area for you. So, social and occupational wellness, right? Because we're always going to have those. And I'm kind of going back to the social because it's an easier one for me to kind of touch upon. Actually, social, spiritual, and occupational could, potentially, it all has to do with, or hang on, let me go back. So social wellness and occupational wellness could potentially go together because it has to do with our connections to other folks. And then potentially environmental and spiritual wellness could come together, because you might not believe in, not you specifically, but a person might not believe in a specific higher power, but we are recognizing that we are all part of a greater system is super important to wellness in general, because acts towards others and the earth matter in a wellness component. It matters in a happiness component of our own validity on this earth. You're doing things for others, doing things for the earth. And so they might blend, and the spokes might come, there might be a different amount, but it's still important to questioning the relevancy of it is something that for you specifically requires a little bit of research, right? In terms of what that means for anyone specifically. Like, well, this one's not important to me. Well, first asking why is that, and then can it blend into another spoke? It's kind of like when someone sits down for a consultation and we say, okay, well, what do you like to do for exercise? Well, I like to lift and I hate to run. Well, why do you hate to run? Well, because it's uncomfortable and it hurts and it's hard. But doing hard things challenges us. And when we're challenged, we grow. And so kind of understanding the growth mindset of challenge.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions, I want to thank you all for your time today. And I want to thank Kelsey and Scott for having me for the kickoff adulting of the semester. It was a super great connecting with all of you today. And I wish you tons of luck with your habit change. And I hope that you're able to kind of take a positive step today. And good luck this semester. It's going to be a great one.
Awesome. Thank you, Brooke. We really appreciate it. Just as a reminder, Brooke did leave her email in there. So if you're interested to learn more, I know she would make time for you in that case. And also just as a reminder to everyone, next week, the same time, we're going to be having another Adulting 101. It'll be our second one, and it'll be with Jeff Harrington from the Career Center. So please come back for that. Tell your friends about that. And then the final thing is that stay tuned to your email that's attached to your Zoom account, because we will be sending you a post-session survey so we can get some feedback from you. Your feedback is valuable to us. It's important. It closes down the loop of us understanding what you guys want and need. And so please fill that out and send it back our way as well. All right, thanks everyone. We are done.